Everyone likes you, not just tolerated, genuinely liked. You are the person people are happy to see arrive, the person they describe as warm, as kind, as easy to be around, the person who never causes problems, never makes things uncomfortable, never takes up more space than the room has offered them. You are dependable. You are agreeable. You are, by every social measure, a person who has gotten it right. And yet, you are never the first call when something actually falls apart. You are not the person they drive 4 hours to see on a random Tuesday. You are not the one they choose when they have to choose. You are loved in the way people love a warm room. They are grateful for it when they are in it, and they do not think about it when they leave. You are liked by everyone, and you are chosen by almost no one. And somewhere behind the smile you have practiced into a reflex, you already know exactly what I am talking about. There is a distinction that almost no one talks about because it is too uncomfortable to name, and because the people who most need to hear it are often the ones who have spent their entire lives being told they are doing everything right. The distinction is this: being liked and being chosen are not the same thing. They are not even close to the same thing. And confusing them, building an entire personality around one while hoping it will eventually produce the other, is one of the most quietly devastating mistakes a human being can make. Being liked is easy. You become liked by being agreeable, by being available, by never being too much, by making every person you encounter feel comfortable and seen and validated without ever making them feel the friction of encountering someone who is genuinely, uncomplicatedly themselves. You become liked by being a room temperature version of yourself, present enough to register, mild enough to never disturb anything. Being chosen is different. Being chosen means someone looked at the full reality of you, not the careful, agreeable, edge-free version you present to the world, but the version with the opinions that make people uncomfortable, and the needs that inconvenience people, and the silence that asks something of the person sitting across from you. They looked at that version and decided, this one. Not because it is easy, because it is real. The person who is universally liked is often the person who has made themselves so consistently, so professionally comfortable to be around, that they have accidentally removed every quality that would make someone choose them over anyone else. They are liked the way a familiar song is liked. Pleasant, inoffensive, something you are glad exists without needing to seek it out. You know this feeling. You have watched it operate in your own life with a precision that is almost clinical. You are invited to everything but essential to nothing. You are the first person someone calls to fill a seat, and the last person they call when the seat they actually wanted is empty. You are consulted when decisions need to be made comfortable, and overlooked when decisions need to be made real. And the cruelest part, the specific cruelty of this particular arrangement, is that you did this. Not maliciously, not stupidly. You built this with extraordinary intelligence and care. You constructed a version of yourself that the world would receive without resistance, and it worked. The world receives you exactly as intended, warmly, lightly, and without any lasting impression on the people you most want to matter to. The question worth sitting with, the one this video is actually about, is not why other people don't choose you. The question is, what did you have to remove from yourself to become this likable? And what happens to the things you removed? Erich Fromm, the psychoanalyst who spent his life studying the price human beings pay to belong, wrote about what he called the marketing orientation, the person who relates to themselves the way a product relates to a market, who has learned, sometimes from the very first years of life, that they are most valued not for what they actually are, but for what they can successfully present themselves as being. This is not vanity. This is not manipulation. This is survival. And it begins much earlier and runs much deeper than most people are comfortable acknowledging. You learned, somewhere in the particular landscape of your early life, that certain versions of you were received better than others, that the loud, demanding, inconvenient version of you created friction, that the needy, vulnerable, fully feeling version of you made other people uncomfortable in ways that had consequences for you, that the version of you with strong opinions, with sharp edges, with a clear and sometimes difficult sense of what you actually wanted, that version was too much. And so, with the extraordinary adaptability of a human being trying to survive their circumstances, you began to edit. You began to manage. You learned which parts of yourself to lead with and which parts to keep behind a door that was always available but never opened in public. You became, over years and decades of practice, genuinely expert at being exactly what any given room needed you to be. Rollo May wrote something that should stop everyone who reads it. The opposite of courage is not cowardice, it is conformity. And the deepest conformity is not the conformity of behavior, it is the conformity of self. The slow, imperceptible process of sanding down every edge that might cause friction until what remains is smooth enough to belong everywhere and sharp enough to cut through nothing. Think carefully about the last time you disagreed with someone and said so, not politely gestured toward a different perspective, actually said, "No, I think you are wrong about this, and here is why." Think about the last time you expressed a need, not framed as a suggestion, not wrapped in enough caveats to make it deniable, but stated directly, "This is what I need from you." Think about the last time you allowed yourself to be boring, or tired, or unimpressed, or angry in front of someone whose opinion of you mattered. If these moments are rare, or if the memory of them is accompanied by a particular kind of anxiety, the specific fear of what the other person thought afterward, whether you went too far, whether you damaged something, then you already understand the architecture we are describing. You have built a self that is structurally optimized for approval, and that optimization, as precise and effective as it is, comes at an exact and irreversible cost. The cost is this: the self that is optimized for approval cannot be chosen. It can only be liked. Because choosing requires encountering someone real enough to choose. And you have made yourself, with enormous skill and effort, into something that is too consistent, too accommodating, too reliably pleasant to register as a distinct human being with a distinct interior life that someone might need to know. You have become, in the most exact psychological sense of the word, invisible. Jung was fascinated by what he called the psychology of the good person. Not because goodness itself is problematic, but because of what the relentless performance of goodness requires. Because somewhere in the process of becoming so reliably pleasant, so consistently kind, so expertly available, somewhere in that process, a significant portion of your actual self had to go somewhere. Where did your anger go? Not irritation, that mild, socially acceptable frustration that can be acknowledged with a sigh. The real anger, The anger at being consistently deprioritized by people you have consistently prioritized. The anger at being the person everyone leans on and no one thinks to ask about. The anger at having your kindness read as availability rather than as the deliberate, costly choice that it actually is. Where did your needs go? Not the small, stateable, already approved needs. The ones that feel too large to voice. The need to be truly known rather than pleasantly encountered. The need to matter to someone in a way that costs them something. The need to stop being grateful for whatever is offered and to ask once clearly for what you actually want. Where did your opinions go? The ones that might cause disagreement. The ones that would require you to hold a position under pressure rather than finding the generous interpretation of whatever the person across from you believes. They went into the shadow. Every anger you swallowed, every need you minimized, every opinion you softened into accommodation. Jung's shadow is not just the dark and frightening parts of yourself. It is also the vital parts. The parts with edges. The parts that want things. The parts that would, if allowed to exist in the open, make you into someone specific, someone undeniable, someone who could actually be chosen because they are actually distinct enough to choose. Here is the paradox that sits at the center of everything we have been discussing, and it is a paradox worth staying with because it is genuinely counterintuitive. The qualities that make you more likable make you less choosable, and the qualities that would make you truly choosable, the ones that would make someone say, "I need this specific person in my life in a way I cannot simply replace," are precisely the qualities you have been systematically removing in order to be received without friction. Your availability makes you convenient. Your agreeableness makes you comfortable. Your consistency makes you reliable. None of these things make you irreplaceable. None of these things make you the person someone lies awake thinking about, or drives through the night to reach, or chooses over the easier option. They make you the person everyone is glad exists and no one is desperate to keep. The people in your life who are chosen, genuinely, insistently chosen despite being inconvenient, despite being difficult, despite occasionally being too much, are almost never the most agreeable people in the room. They are the people who showed up as something specific, something you can push against, something that did not reshape itself to fit the available space but instead created pressure, required response, demanded that the people around them actually encounter them rather than simply enjoy them. Viktor Frankl observed that meaning requires tension, that the human being flourishes not in the absence of resistance, but in the confrontation with something real. What you have denied the people in your life, in your relentless commitment to frictionlessness, is the experience of encountering something real. You have given them comfort. You have withheld yourself. So what does this ask of you? And I want to be precise here, because the temptation when confronted with this kind of diagnosis is to reach for a prescription, to turn "you have made yourself too accommodating" into a program, a practice, a set of behaviors to adopt. That is not what this is. What this is asking, what the whole architecture of this conversation has been building toward, is something much more specific and much more difficult than a behavioral change. It is asking you to consider the possibility that you have confused strategy with character. That the person you present to the world, careful, available, never too much, is not actually who you are. It is who you decided to be in order to be safe. And that the person underneath that decision, the one with the anger and the needs and the opinions and the particular inconvenient shape of their actual desires. That person deserves to exist somewhere outside the internal monologue you never share with anyone. Being chosen does not require being difficult. It requires being real. And there is a version of you, the one you have been carefully managing away from public view, that is so specific, so particular, so genuinely itself, that the right people would not merely like it. They would recognize it. They would feel in its presence the specific relief of encountering something that is not performing, something that has decided finally that the exhausting labor of universal approval is not worth what it costs. You have spent years making yourself easy to be around, and it has worked. And it has cost you the thing you actually wanted, which was never to be easy to be around. It was to be impossible to forget. Fromm wrote that the deepest human need is not to be liked. It is to overcome separateness, to truly connect, not at the managed, comfortable surface level, but at the level where two people actually encounter each other, where neither one walks away feeling less alone. That kind of connection does not happen between a room and the people who pass through it. It happens between two specific, irreducible, sometimes difficult human beings who have decided that the risk of being fully seen is worth taking. You can be liked by everyone, or you can be known by someone. The only question that matters at the end of all of this, is which one you have actually been choosing.